No, Cindy. I want the report completed and done right now, yelled Margaret as she started to change her daughter's diaper. Look, I can't fax you the details, I'm changing my daughter's diaper. Margaret groaned as she cooed toward her baby girl Sarah, who was babbling and playing with the mobile over her. She taped up the diaper and carried her out of the nursery. We'll get it done, okay? She hung up as she put her phone back in her suit jacket. She looked at a mirror, her neat short black hair in a stunning suit. Her husband is a lucky guy to have this bombshell as a wife. Okay, let's get you dressed for daycare. She grabbed a pink dress and dressed Sarah in it. Sarah giggles as she lifts up her dress. No, Sarah, that's a no-no. She pull it down. Save it for when you're in your 20s. She winked as she grabbed her keys and they walk out of the house. They drove to the daycare, where Margaret quickly dropped Sarah off. Then she got in her car and sped off to work. At the bank she did more reports, had her coffee. Then Cindy walked in. Hey, Maggie, she yelled. Got that report done? Finally, said Margaret as she grabbed the papers. Cindy, just keep on talking, well, gossiping more like it. Guess what? You know that cute guy in the mail room? Well, I invited him to my place tonight so we could have some fun. She winked. Anyway, how's Sarah? Sarah's fine, Margaret said. She's what a slut. So after you had Sarah, did you and Dave had sex? Margaret frowned. Shouldn't you be working, Cindy? That scared her off as she quickly ran back to her desk. Margaret went back on the computer as that thought lingered in her mind. They didn't had much alone time, and they can't do anything since Sarah is like in the next room. But then she thought of a great idea. After work she drove to a lingerie store and bought herself something naughty. She paid $50 and went to pick up Sarah from the daycare. Once they went home, Margaret put Sarah in her playpen as she went to the bedroom. Her black velvet box on her bed as she started getting excited. Maybe I should try it on. She opened the box and stripped her suit off, along with her underwear so she could be completely nude. She grabbed the black velvet panties and slid them up her thighs, the thong digging in her ass as she started to adjust the bra. The bra had a strap so she could expose her nipples. She then pulled on the stockings until they are tight. Then went to admire herself in her mirror. Oh yeah, she said, Dave is going to go nuts. She turned and pat her bare ass. Then suddenly Sarah walked in. Mummy! Sarah! Screamed Margaret, covering herself with the sheets. What are you doing? Sarah giggled. I wanna play mummy. Margaret sighed. That was close. Come here, sweetie. She covered herself with the sheets as she picked her up. Mummy is too big for toys anyway, she cooed, but Sarah frowned so Margaret tickled her belly, making her laugh, as they left the bedroom. Okay, Sarah, let's get you back in your playpen, she cooed as she placed Sarah in the playpen. She watched as she played with her stuffed toys. Look at her, so cute, she thought as she sat on a chair and watched as Sarah started making airplane noises. I wish I could just fool around like that, no worries, and just be pampered. Then her home phone rang, so she picked it up and smiled as she hears her husband's voice. Hey babe, said Dave. Hey honey, said Margaret. It's Daddy, she whispered to Sarah. Daddy, squealed Sarah as she got up and tried to reach for the phone. Margaret smiled as Dave continued to talk. So I could home by tomorrow night if this business trip is a success, he said. Well, you are the world's greatest inventor, teased Margaret. Just remember, I have a surprise for you when you get back. Oh, and what is it? Oh, you'll see, she has it planned. She will put Sarah early to bed so she could put on her new sexy lingerie and lay seductively on the bed. Just don't keep me waiting, she giggled as she entered her bedroom and removed the sheet. Sarah continued to play when she noticed a black box next to her playpen. With her curiosity, she grabbed the box and started examining it. Oh, by the way, said Dave, have you seen a black box anywhere? Margaret tried to think, unaware that Sarah is fiddling with it. No, I haven't. She noticed the box in Sarah's hands. Oh, Sarah has it. Shit. You have to take it from her. Why, what is? Before she could finish, she saw Sarah push on the box and a bright flash filled her eyes. She dropped the phone as she rubbed her eyes. she hears a lullaby playing somewhere, but she feels dizzy as she fell on her butt. As the brightness fades away, Margaret could see properly again. As her vision cleared, she was looking up at the TV. She was also surrounded by Sarah's baby toys, which looks too big for her anyway. Margaret felt a chill as she rubbed her bare shoulders. What? She looked at herself and found out she is completely topless. She quickly got up and hears crinkling as a big diaper is taped around her waist. What's going on? Where's my laundry? She wondered. She then noticed that Sarah is gone too. Sarah! Sarah! She started to panic as she tried to run but found bars in front of her blocking her path. She grabbed a hold of the bars and started shaking it. Sarah! She started to tear up as she sobbed. That's when she hears footsteps coming her way. Margaret dropped her jaw as her young 2-year-old daughter walked in the living room wearing a toddler version of her suit and talking on the phone. What's wrong, Mummy? Cooed Sarah as she blocked her phone with her shoulder. Do you need a change? Margaret is trying to process this. Don't worry, Daddy will be back home tomorrow night, Sarah said, if you need pleasure. As I know you adults like that, use your magic wand. She gave her a vibrator and then walked towards the kitchen while talking on the phone. Margaret dropped the vibrator as she looked around the playpen. What's going on? Why am I a baby? She shook the rails trying to make it open. Come on, you stupid thing. She yelled, then she managed to break it apart. The rails fall to the ground as Margaret cheered. Finally! She stepped out of the playpen, then she grabbed the pink tabs on her diaper and ripped them off. The diaper fell to the ground as Margaret walked away. She peered into the kitchen as Sarah was still on the phone, as she crept towards her bedroom and went inside. But she was in for a surprise. Her bedroom has completely changed. Her queen-size bed where she and her husband sleep and have sex is now a big queen-size crib, with a mobile on each side, and on the top it has the words Davy and Maggie in bright blue and pink letters. Margaret saw a small table on the ground with wipes, powder and 2 different packages of adult diapers. Margaret opened up the closet and found nothing but babified clothes of hers and Dave's clothes. She picked up a dress with frills and threw it away in disgust. This must be some sort of dream, she said as she turned to walk out when the door opened and Sarah walked in to find Margaret naked. Mummy! Where is your diaper? She scolded as she grabbed Margaret's hand. Sarah! Screamed Margaret, I don't need a diaper. I am a mature adult. But she was forced on the small table as she laid down. She watched as Sarah grabbed a diaper from the pink package as she began to re-diaper her. On the package was a blonde woman wearing nothing but a diaper doing babyish things. Margaret watched as Sarah lift her bottom up and slid the diaper under her. Then she was powdered and taped snugly in the diaper. There we go, cooed Sarah, all snug so we don't have any accidents. She got up and went to the closet while Margaret quickly got up from the table and walked away. I gotta get out of here. She went to the door, but then Sarah pulled the back of her diaper and dragged her towards the crib. Margaret fell on the crib as she looked back and found Sarah putting her legs through a bright pink footy pajama. Margaret struggled, but Sarah put her arms through the sleeves and zipped it up, leaving her dressed in a big footy pajama with teddy bears on it. Margaret started to cry when Sarah put a pacifier in her mouth. Okay, it's bedtime, she said as she laid her down and tucked her in. Margaret suckled on the parquet as the bar of the crib were pulled up and locked in place. Good night, Mummy, said Sarah as she turned on a nightlight and closed the lights, then walked out of the room and closed the door, leaving Margaret in the quiet nursery filled with the sounds of a lullaby and the suckle of the parquet. Her eyes beginning to drop as she fell into a nice blissful sleep. Margaret hears the sounds of birds as she yawned awake. She sat up and rubbed her eyes to see the bars of her crib. Oh no! She cried, it wasn't a dream. She quickly stood up in her crib as she unzipped her pajama and stripped it off. She threw it out of the crib as she started to grab at the tabs of the diaper when the smell hit her. Oh please no, she felt the back of her diaper as the poop mush against her butt. She sniffed as she started going red with embarrassment. Then her little girl Sarah, who should be in diapers and not her, walked in the nursery and gagged at the smell. "Whoa, guess you did a big boom boom," she teased as she unlocked the crib. Margaret tried to run out, but she was grabbed and dragged towards the small change table. She witnessed her diaper removed, her ass being wiped and a new diaper placed on her as Sarah threw her messy diaper in a big pail along with other messy diapers. "There we go," said Sarah as she sat her up. Margaret just crossed her arms and pouted. "What's wrong?" asked Sarah. "Are you hungry?" Margaret shook her head. Sarah then grabbed one of the toys and shook it in front of her. "Look, Mummy. Mr. Teddy wants to play." She playfully shook the teddy in front of her, making her face go beet red. "How humiliating. How can this happen to me?" she thought. Just then the doorbell rang. Sarah dropped the teddy to get the door, with Margaret quickly following behind. Sarah opened the door. "Grandpa. Thank goodness you're here." She hugged her grandpa, Margaret's father Joe, as Margaret waddled in. "Daddy," she said, but her father looks normal. Joe noticed her and exclaimed with joy as he lifted her in the air, "How is my princess doing?" "Horrible," said Sarah. Whenever she gets the chance she either fill up her diaper or get rid of the diaper completely. "Well, you know adults at that age," said Joe as he carried Margaret to the couch. "As soon as she's 50 her maturity should come back gracefully." Margaret whimpered. Sarah checked her watch and got up. "Well, I gotta get to work. Can you drop her off at daycare?" she asked. "Of course," said Joe, so Sarah hugged and gave Margaret a kiss on the cheek. Then she left the house. "Well, Maggie," said Joe, "we should get you dressed. Don't want the other men to gawk at your boobies," he chuckled as he carried Margaret to the nursery. Margaret was sat on the crib as Joe go through her closet. "Daddy, please," she said, "you gotta help me. I think something happened last night. Please tell me you don't actually see me like this." But Joe grabbed out a pink romper suit and started dressing Margaret in it. She whimpered and sobbed. "Doesn't anyone understand me? Do I sound like a baby to them?" She was then carried out of the nursery, out of the house, and been secured tightly in a big car seat in Joe's car. "Okay, sweetie, Daddy's going to drop you to daycare, so try not to make such a fuss." He pinched her cheek as he got in the driver's seat and drove the car away. Margaret looked out the window at her surroundings. She spots a couple of children acting like young adults, gawking and laughing at a teenage girl wearing preschool clothes and being led by her 10-year-old brother, who looks like someone who is in senior year. She then looked in another car when an adult married couple were together in car seats crying like babies while their children were driving. One was talking on the phone while the other was yelling at the other drivers. She spots a couple of young adults playing in the park, wearing toddler outfits and running around while an adult woman was being fed by her toddler son. Margaret tried to process this in her head. How can this happen? Wasn't the black box? She remembered the black box being weird and relishing a bright light. Of course. If I can find that stupid thing, I can reverse this. She noticed that they stop in front of a building. Margaret was lifted out of the car as she looks at the big daycare. Once inside, she spots more adults in baby clothes playing in a big playroom. "Oh my God! Is this what we are reduced to?" Joe was talking at the reception while Margaret stood in the big waiting room. Then he grabbed her hand and led her to the playroom. "Now Maggie, try not to cause a fuss, and remember no bang bang," he cooed as he hugged her and left the room, leaving Margaret surrounded by adult babies. Bang bang. Margaret sat in the corner of the playroom banging on some blocks with a toy hammer. She adjusted her diaper a little too as it feels weird wearing one. "So this must be what it feels like when I was a real baby," she thought. "Still can't see why babies enjoy this shit." She then spots someone across the room. Margaret got up and waddled towards the blonde girl in a pink t-shirt and plastic panties. "Cindy." She gasped as her co-worker Cindy looked up from her drawing and gave her a big goofy smile. "Maggie. Hi, how are you?" She patted on the stop next to her. "Come play with me." Margaret sat next to her as Cindy continued to draw. "Look, I made a pony," she beamed as she showed a bad drawing of a pony.